Hello on YouTube, and welcome to another episode of my Singularity Let's Play series. This is Northstar. I hope you are well, taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my series, welcome. Returning folks, welcome back. New folks. So this, like all my series, is organized in playlists chronologically from oldest to newest. That temporarily, when they did the reality reboot, there's a free Infinity Pass that went out. That's why I have that. I would not pay for that. Way too expensive. But you know, I'll certainly use it while I have it for free. Space Explorers. Right, let's talk about giving probes AI. Could be a bad precedent, to say the least. You're creating something that's very much entirely free of human supervision, not entirely, but in the moment, and increasingly probably moving towards things that are entirely free of human supervision. Made decisions getting closer and closer to something go horribly wrong, let's just say. Non-sentient AI absolutely can do a lot to change the world, but it needs to be approached very carefully. And of course I say non-sentient because, well, if you are using a sentient AI for a lot of things, it's basically slavery. A thing can think, feel. You don't get to just use it for your own purposes. Doesn't matter if it's flesh and blood or not. Wait, okay, AI has gone quite fast here. Summon to that. That. Boom. Doing quite well on that. Machine unlearning. How can human biased errors and other bad input be removed from trained AI systems? Once integrated, the data becomes part of the neural net and can't be unlearned. They only need to be rebuilt from scratch. Yep. The AI exploration, though, of course, has the perils tend to be a lot less valuable than the AI tools generators, because this dev of this game is very much biased towards AI being this great thing. The reality is we probably can't coexist with AI so long as the AI is controlled by billionaires. Which is to say, if we're going to have an AI radically transform and improve society, we need to take the power away from the billionaires. Capitalism has always been vile and self-destructive and caused immense human suffering. That suffering is going to get much, much, much worse with AI to amplify it. As well as things like, yes, technological unemployment. This is not some myth or a fear of technology. People name that group that destroyed machinery and try and claim it's neo whatever. I forget the even term. My brain with long COVID can't always remember the names for something. It doesn't mean I don't remember the concept. It's very specific memory retrieval problems. In fact, a specialist less than a week ago that I saw confirm this, that yeah, there's memory retrieval issues of this specific type thanks to long COVID. But anyways, just grab that. It doesn't mean I don't still retain understanding. But yeah, no, this is not just technology bad kind of thing. Let me put this in a way that's easy to understand. Technology improves our capability to affect the environment, to shape it, to transform natural resources, the gifts of nature, to quote, into objects to meet human needs. Now, here's the thing. There's always so many natural resources on Earth. And while we could extract far, 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 far more than we're currently extracting in terms of it's physically possible, what we're extracting already is destroying the planet. You can think of coal, oil, natural gas, metals, pollution, climate change. These things have gone out of control. That should not be controversial. If you reject that, you reject science and facts broadly, and I'm not going to be able to get through to you. Or at least you have a lot to learn about these things. Some people may be young and have not had the chance to learn, but most of the older viewers, if you somehow reject climate change at your age, you need to frickin' learn that and get over whatever psychological distortions are allowing you to believe what you wish to believe rather than what the facts show. No, it's not something I wish to believe. It would be nice to think climate change weren't real, but it is. Where are all the... Everything is in black there. What kind of graphics glitch? Weirdness. Alright. So, take a second here to do a few more idea clicks while I talk. I'm gonna reset this. So there are limits how many natural resources we can sustainably extract. That's pretty basic. Anyone should be able to agree with that. And we are already far, far, far past those limits as well. That's also pretty basic. I know what does this have to do with AI? Well, technology means that a smaller number of people can transform that finite amount of natural resources that we can sustainably extract. And yes, there's a small extent to which technology can allow more resource extraction to be sustainable. But again, we're already far, far, far past the point of sustainability. So this isn't that helpful to the situation, to say the least. Would mean that we don't have to dial down natural resource extraction quite as much. But the thing is, we're already in a world where the vast majority of people don't have a wage that's reasonable, where the demand for labor isn't high enough that under a capitalist system, because I'm not talking about how AI is somehow compatible with humans. I'm saying it's incompatible with capitalism, with humans organize themselves in that mode of production. And under capitalism, what determines wages is supply and demand. Is demand that is determined not by consumption, because people will consume different amounts of different resources, but ultimately there's a huge ability to just increase consumption if it's the right thing to offer. And a lot of people don't even have basic needs met. I'm disabled on COVID, for instance, and society supposedly can't afford to provide me with, a decent quality of a lot of things. Expects me, if I can even get SSI to live on a pitiful amount of money. Federal SSI is less than $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month is nothing. So yeah, there is absolutely a capability to consume vast more. What limits the demand for labor is the availability of capital, the availability of sufficient machinery, technology, etc. to employ a person. And as technology advances, the amount of capital that's required to employ one person goes up because we automate. Because let's say, not to move away from AI a second, you have a factory go from 2 machines to 20 that are operated by a single person. That means you need to buy 20 machines to add 1 worker to a factory if you're doing it at that automation ratio. Put differently, AI means that less and less of the workforce that we currently have is actually needed to sustain current production levels. And it amplifies the amount of natural resources each person can transform, which means you need to transform more natural resources in order to maintain the same demand for employment that we have. Now, in the past, again, natural resource extraction conversion was simply increased, but that's how we've gotten to a point of wild, unsustainable development. And there was also a transition to more of a service-based economy, which was less resource intensive, which allowed us for a while to not run into these barriers. But even with a service-based economy, we've already exceeded the planet's limits by a lot. And I mean, even with service economies in places like the United States, and while there are some countries that might still become less resource intensive, the so-called US service economy, keep in mind, also has really just outsourced a lot of its heavy industry to other countries like China. Not that it doesn't generate a lot of demand for heavy industry, it's that that's actually just gone overseas. So the idea that, you could run economies without a lot of demand for natural resources that are actually are actually importing a lot of goods, it's nonsense. You're falsely viewing that country in isolation when they actually require the heavy industry. It's just being done in other countries. Anyways, without going too deep into stuff about the global economy, which is what I was just on about there, my point being that because we can't just increase the amount of natural resources we convert without making the climate collapse even worse and even more inevitable, that means that there is going to be, if we don't increase natural resource conversion, which we can't do, less and less and less demand for labor, because the only other way to have a reduced number of people needed to convert all natural resources is to have a larger supply of labor relative to demand. There may still be some jobs around, but they're going to be relatively fewer. Wages are going to go down, and already wages are too low, and a lot of people aren't surviving, aren't having their basic needs met. It's a lot more complicated than that, but the complications don't go against what I'm saying. They just add nuance to it. The fact of the matter is that you cannot have infinite growth on a finite planet. You cannot just extract more and more and more and more and more forever. These things actually act multiplicatively, which is interesting, but they do. So, while this would technically be generating a little over 1% extra, if I were able to double this factor, I could double the knowledge conversion. Although to double it would require 40 levels of this, so that would be about 2 to the 17. Still, this is more cost effective. I'm starting an idea of what these things do and which are more cost effective. Simulation speed will, on the other hand, increase the raw power that can be put into the knowledge converter. And this generates more idea efficiency. The speed seems to speed up both the knowledge converter and I'm not sure what the difference in speed and height. Well, overall simulation speeds would affect entropy as well. That's right. This is already has a larger factor. So this x multiplicatively, but x multiplicatively with the other factors, not with itself. Cool. Metabit efficiency is only 1.69. Basically, the second one here is usually... Yeah, they keep switching off just to put the cheapest thing on top. I wish I could just keep the sorting by name or something. I don't know. It makes it hard to keep selecting the same one when I want to do so. This adds more to it. Was a smaller factor. There we go. Start a fresh simulation. There's some upgrades now. Anyways, the overall economy is incredibly complex. This makes it hard to try and give simple metaphors, especially when I'm as tired as I am right now. And trust me, I've thought of these things when I am well rested. This is something where I'm awake and right now where I might not be able to think as clearly as normal. This might be more difficulty explaining it right this second. But think of a simple example of a very simple economy of just the harvesting of timber and the production of, let's say, boards. Okay? Now, if you do a technology, if you add a technology to a lumber mill that allows fewer workers, that allows a given worker to process more logs into boards to maintain the same number of workers in that lumber mill, you need to process more logs. That's fine for a while. But what happens when you start to reach the limits of what the forest can actually produce? You can't produce more logs because there's only so much land, or because of ecological devastation, to go back to that. Then suddenly, when you start automating even further, you're going to reduce the number of people working the lumber mills. And when you do this across all industries, and then still keep in mind that the entire economy ultimately is based on resource inputs. Even what I'm doing right now, there's electricity, there's wear and tear on the computer system, there's storage space in the YouTube servers. Even YouTube has material inputs. Nothing is without. Some industries are more resource intensive than others. And that's why some increase in demand for jobs can occur for a while if the overall economy is growing. But as resources become scarcer, the economy will grow slower and slower. And so automation can definitely outpace this increasingly slow economic growth, which is being slowed down by natural resource scarcity. That's the thing. Economic growth and job growth at a given technology level doesn't have to stop. It just has to be outpaced by the pace of automation. And as many techno-optimists and techno-fascists will remind us, technological progress is accelerating in certain things like computers. It's not actually in a lot of other areas. I'm a biologist by training, and biology progress in a lot of the sciences actually are not. Sure, there's certain types of data we produced in greater and greater amounts, but our actual understanding, while it's increasing, is in relative terms slowing. So it's not growing by as high a percentage each year. It may even be growing in absolute terms, but it is approaching, it is leveling out as more and more headed towards the plateauing. We won't actually reach that limit for where we're not getting any substantial growth in understand biology for hundreds of years, but the point is that the rate of growth is going down and down and down and down. The low-hanging fruit has been picked more and more, and what's left are things that are difficult and slow